Welcome to the Universal Design for Learning Practicum. On behalf of the Curriculum Planning Committee, core session facilitators, recommended session facilitators, cohort leaders, and everyone working behind the scenes to make this practicum possible, thank you for joining us. The Universal Design for Learning Practicum is a collaboration of Accessible NU, the Searle Center for Advancing Learning and Teaching, university libraries, teaching and learning technologies, counseling and psychological services, academic support and learning advancement, the School of Professional Studies, and the Office of the Provost. In this video, we'd like to provide a brief overview of the concept of universal design for learning, as over the next 3 weeks, you will be taking a deeper look at each of the 3 principles and learning how to practically implement them in your course. Universal design for learning is based on universal design in architecture. Universal design is a concept developed in the 1970s by Ronald Mace, an architect at North Carolina State University. It refers to designing environments to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptations or specialized design. Universal design takes a proactive approach to determining barriers that different people will experience and including alternative options to benefit everyone in the design phase. This creates more inclusive and usable environments and is also cost-effective as opposed to retrofitting environments to add individual accommodations later. Universal design for learning uses similar concepts in the classroom. It was developed by David Rose and Ann Meyer from the Center for Applied Specialized Technologies at Harvard University. UDL is based on brain research that suggests there are 3 brain networks that are used in learning: the recognition network, the strategic network, and the affective network. Everyone's networks work a little differently, so multiple approaches are needed to allow students to take in information, share what they've learned, and be engaged in the learning process. UDL is not a one-size-fits-all approach, but suggests that to reach all learners, options are needed in the form of multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression, and multiple means of engagement. Throughout these next 3 weeks, you will learn more about each of these principles and how to implement them, as each will be a focus of a core session. UDL is often talked about out of disability services offices, so I feel it is important to clear up that UDL is about more than just accessibility and that it benefits all students. These images best illustrate the difference between accessibility and universal design. In this first picture, we see a wheelchair accessible ramp to a building. If we look closer at this image, it appears that this entrance is in the back of the building. It doesn't look very welcoming, and because of its location, it is likely only to be used by someone in a wheelchair. Although others could benefit from it as well, they are unlikely to go around to the back of the building to use this entrance unless it's absolutely necessary. This building meets the minimum requirements for accessibility, but it is not universally designed. This approach could be compared to adding an individual accommodation to a class. Now let's look at the second picture, which I believe is an entrance to a courthouse in Vancouver. This is an example of a universally designed entrance to a building, where the needs of many were considered and designed into the original plans of the building. There are options to get to the entrance that include stairs, a ramp, and handrails along different paths. Users have a choice of how to enter the building. Here, unlike in the previous picture, someone pushing a stroller or someone who is uneasy on stairs is much more likely to access the ramp feature. Not only is this accessible, but it is easily used by all, and there are options to choose how you use it. This is the difference between just being accessible and universally designing something. To further illustrate the difference between making a class accessible versus universally designing it, here are some other key distinctions. To obtain an accommodation to make a class accessible, a student is required to identify with the Disability Services Office as having a disability. In a universally designed class, for the most part, students are able to remain anonymous about their situation. In making a class accessible, accommodations are essentially added as a retrofit. You see, a student experiences something that they cannot do in the class, so an accommodation is made to make that accessible. In a universally designed class, options are added in the planning process to remove potential barriers ahead of time, and thus the student does not have to experience barriers to be accommodated. Finally, accommodations to make the class accessible are a one-off solution that benefit one individual. When options are added in a universally designed course, the learning environment is designed to remove barriers for all students, extending those benefits to everyone and creating a more inclusive, accessible, and usable learning environment for all. Implementing UDL in a class is a proactive approach to develop the best learning environment for the variability of learners in the class. To implement UDL, instructors begin by identifying potential barriers that any student may run into in their class environment, course materials, and curriculum, and attempt to reduce those barriers and enhance learning for all by providing options in representation of materials, expression of learning, and engagement. Will instructors always identify every barrier in the planning process? Of course not, and that is okay. As you will learn over the next 3 weeks, implementing UDL is an iterative process. It is also a lot to undertake to completely redesign an entire class. As you learn about the UDL principles, we'd suggest starting small and identifying specific areas where you'd like to start implementing UDL and build from there as you gain more experience. As I've mentioned, the next 3 weeks will provide a deeper dive into the principles of universal design for learning, and you will learn practical solutions to take away and use in your courses. The goal of each session is to provide you with something you can implement now and something you can think more about and implement when planning your next course. By participating in this practicum, participants will be able to reflect on the impact of the pandemic and other current events on student and instructor mental health and well-being as related to the teaching and learning experience. Recognize how aspects of their current course design may unintentionally exacerbate challenges faced by students. They'll be able to understand how to utilize UDL principles to reduce instructors' need to implement individual solutions for students experiencing barriers. And you'll be able to apply specific UDL practices to syllabi, Canvas sites, course materials, assessments, and learning experiences.